Just a quick trigger warning before we get started. Today's episode has to do with racially motivated violence, so if that's going to be triggering to you, you may want to skip this episode. In Fargo, North Dakota, fire investigators and police were working fast to find a suspect in a fire that appeared to be racially motivated. An Iranian-born immigrant had been the subject of harassment and threats for weeks before men broke into the restaurant owned by her family as she was closing for the day. They strangled her to unconsciousness, bound her with tape, and lit the restaurant on fire. The victim regained consciousness and managed to crawl from the fire, and the responding fire department found her outside the restaurant on the ground, injured and suffering from smoke inhalation. An outraged community banded together to decry the racism that had nearly cost them a member of their community. It did not take long for the police to piece together the evidence, and when they made an arrest, it only fanned the community's fury, but not for the reasons you might think. Join us as we find out who fanned the flames in Fargo, North Dakota on this episode of Crime to Burn. Welcome to Crime to Burn, where we explore the dark city landscape where true crime intersects with arson and criminal negligence. Join us as we sift through the ashes and bring you the story of what really happened. Welcome back to Crime to Burn. I'm April, a fire protection engineer and former firefighter.
And I have no qualifications whatsoever, but I'm here anyway. Deal with it.
I will. I deal with it a lot.
I know, bless your heart.
A quick reminder, we welcome your constructive feedback at crimetoburn@gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram, X, and Facebook. We would love it if you would follow us, and when you see social media posts, if you would help us grow by commenting, liking, and sharing our posts, it goes a really long way into telling those pesky algorithms to push our content out to new potential listeners. And please, if you enjoy this podcast, tell a friend to listen and leave us a 5-star review on whatever platform you use to listen. A quick update before we get started. My next multi-part case is going to be a really deep dive into a serial arsonist that operated over multiple counties in Maryland for over 10 years. And I really hoped that this was going to be episode 1 of that series. But there's a lot of court recordings to get through, and I have not gotten through them as fast as I'd hoped. And I just really want to be sure that I have all of the facts when I start the case, so I can be sure to lay out the story in a way that keeps it engaging through the entire series. And I feel like I need to corroborate more of the facts with the court recordings before I do that, so that I can be sure what I'm bringing you is factual and accurate. And also backed up by the physical evidence and testimony that's presented in court. So just know that the delay on that case is for good reason. I am hoping that we will be able to have it ready for next week, but I'm not going to rush it. I want to do right by all of you that praised our intense research on the Benson case and make sure that this case is just as well researched and that my facts are corroborated. Plus, the arsonist has attorneys in his family, and I want to be sure my facts are airtight because I really enjoy being lawsuit-free.
I also enjoy that.
Yeah. So that's the update on the serial arsonist case. It is coming, hopefully next week, but again, I'm not going to rush it. I'm going to make sure we have everything locked up. Okay, let's fly on up to Fargo, shall we?
Let's go.
On October 25th, 1995 at 8:40 p.m., the fire department was called to the Kebab House restaurant owned by Iranian-born U.S. citizens. Now here is the first sticking point. I don't want to bring any grief upon the victims of this fire, and so I'm actually not going to use anyone's names. And you'll understand why later, but there's 3 owners of this restaurant. It was a man and his wife, and then the man's sister. They were all immigrants from Iran. So they'll be husband, wife, and sister through the case. And I'll explain at the end why it'll become obvious, but we'll talk about why we don't use their names. But these people are all still alive to the best of my knowledge, and I don't want to dig up a bunch of old scars.
Let's keep that being alive a happy thing.
Yes, let's keep the being alive a happy thing. Now, the man and his wife were the owners of the restaurant. Some reports said that the man's sister was also a co-owner. Some did not list her as a co-owner. But the man worked at a job that had nothing to do with restauranting. And so the 2 women ran the restaurant together.
Were they naked?
Probably not.
Why are you looking at me like that?
I don't know.
Okay. Was I supposed to say something right there?
No, I was thinking. I disassociated for a minute. I'm sorry. I'm back now.
Oh, cool.
All right. Now, the police were very familiar with this family because in the months leading up to the fire, they'd responded to several complaints about harassment. Now, I wasn't able to get the court records for this case, so I'm really piecing this together based on information from different news sources.
Was the clientele being harassed or the ownership?
The ownership.
Okay.
So I can't give you the exact number of incidents that occurred, but here's what we know from local news reports. Apparently, some weeks before the fire, there was some sort of confrontation between the sister and a group of unruly teens. Now, I don't have any details about the specific confrontation, but I suspect, based on what followed, that there was possibly some racially charged remarks made toward the restaurant owners, but I can't confirm that for certain.
Why do you suspect that?
I'm going to explain.
Okay.
So after this confrontation, there were several incidents that would definitely not pass your human resources diversity and inclusion training, nor would they pass any sort of human decency litmus test. But the harassment that the restaurant owners suspected grew out of this confrontation was definitely racially charged, and race was a motivating factor in that harassment. And given the time frame between the confrontation and when the harassment started, the restaurant owners believed that the harassment was a result of that confrontation. So, in one incident, someone had reportedly vandalized the restaurant by painting swastikas on the doors. Now, this was the only report of vandalism to the building that I could find, and it is from the news reports and not police reports, so take that with a grain of salt because media does get stuff wrong all the time, but based on the reporting, I suspect that this is probably true.
Well, if someone was painting that symbol on the building, how do you know it was hate and they weren't trying to use a protection spell?
I don't know.
That's an old symbol. It's not always just Nazis appropriated it, but they didn't invent it.
I don't know anything about protection spells, and generally, in my experience, and based on the harassment that continues after this, there's a good chance that it was not being used as a protection spell here.
Bummer.
Yeah. Now, there were several incidents after that involving the mail. The restaurant started receiving harassing mail, and in one, they reportedly received some sort of doll that had a noose tied around its neck and a swastika painted on the body of the doll.
Was the doll inflatable?
Didn't say. But great question. Don't know. In another incident, they reportedly received a package with fake fingers, and one report said fake ears in it, like Halloween decoration type things.
You know, the old fake ears. You put them in a bucket and hope the kids... What are you talking about?
I don't know. I've never bought fake fingers or fake ears in my life. But the package included a note that claimed that next time the package would include the body parts of members of the family.
That's dark.
And then another report threatened to do bodily harm or kill family members and burn them and or the restaurant.
And did it say and or?
Nope. I put that in there based on the reports.
That would be the weirdest threat.
Now, I didn't get to read actual police investigation reports, so I can't confirm if all of these were completely separate incidents or if maybe like the fingers came with the doll or what. I just know that all of these were reported in multiple sources. They may have been combined in some manner. Either way, it's still really horrific. And the sister was so disturbed by these threats that she sent her teenage son to California to stay with relatives while the police investigated to determine who was making them. So after the son is safely in California, the restaurant's closing down one evening and the sister-in-law sends the staff home while she clears the last table to close up for the night. While she's alone in the restaurant, 2 to 3 men allegedly enter through the rear door of the restaurant and attack her from behind by putting a rope around her neck and strangling her until she loses consciousness. They then tape her wrists and ankles together, they gag her mouth with tape, and they use a knife or some sort of blade to carve a symbol into her abdomen.
I'm going to keep all these.
Now, many news reports said that the symbol was a swastika or was supposed to be, but an attorney in one news report said that maybe it was more of a cross, and the investigation summary report from the ATF said it was an X. They then poured some liquid from gallon containers and lit 3 separate fires in the building, leaving the sister-in-law unconscious in the restaurant to die in the fire. However, After the assailant arsonists flee, she does regain consciousness, and despite her injuries and the smoke inhalation that she was suffering, and being tied at the ankles and wrists, she is miraculously able to crawl to the door and escape.
Awesome.
When fire and police arrive, she is found taped, gagged, and the rope around her neck is actually tied into a noose. Now, while this was happening, a construction worker was visiting a nearby building in the area, and he sees the flames, and he runs to an occupied building to have them call 911. And then he runs to the building to see if anyone needs help.
Giga Chad.
So he finds the sister-in-law on the ground outside the front door of the restaurant where she's escaped the fire. Then the fire department and EMS arrive. The victim is packaged up and sent off to the hospital for medical treatment. And, of course, the fire department puts out the fire. Now, since we knew from the outset that this was reportedly arson, fire investigators get involved immediately. And what's interesting is that this was in 1995, and federal hate crime laws have just gone into effect. So, since these federal hate crime laws have just gone into effect, the FBI is also called into the investigation relatively quickly. Now, investigators were able to search the scene after the fire was out, and they find 4 one-gallon containers of a flammable liquid marked splash windshield washer fluid. They also found plastic jugs, some Playtex rubber gloves, and Ruffles garbage bags. I thought Ruffles only made potato chips. So apparently there's a brand of garbage bag named Ruffles. I don't know if they're the same.
I didn't know.
I didn't either. Now, this is huge news in Fargo. And the residents are clearly and understandably horrified that this kind of racially motivated crime could occur in their town. And so they rally around the family, work to try to raise funds to help with fire damage and medical bills. And the night after the fire, there's a huge rally, and reportedly somewhere between 700 and 1,000 people marched from a local elementary school to the restaurant to show that racially motivated hate crimes would not be tolerated in their community and to show their support for the victims.
Were they armed?
Didn't say. I'm guessing no. Unless signs count as armed. I did see some video of the rally, and there were people carrying signs about and the racism and hate.
It's just more believable when they're... Yeah.
So police are obviously under really intense pressure to get to work solving this crime before the assailants target any of the other minority-owned businesses in the area. And understandably, there's a lot of fear that these assailants might do it again, and maybe next time the victim wouldn't be able to escape, and the outcome could be much worse. So the day after the fire, investigators take the clues that they already have. They have this windshield washer fluid, and they learn that there's only one retailer in the area that carries this particular brand, and it's Target. So they begin canvassing local Target stores. It also turns out that the brand of tape that was used on the victim is a brand called Manco Plastic Tape, which is also exclusively sold at Target. So at this point, they're probably looking for a mom in Lululemon drinking a Starbucks, buying Halloween decorations while her kids are at school.
Is Lululemon like a store inside Target, like a Starbucks?
No, Lululemon is that like expensive workout brand of clothing that was real popular around this time.
At Target?
No, you couldn't buy it at Target.
Where are we?
I'm talking about the people that shop at Target.
Yeah.
The people that shop at Target, suburban moms would get all jazzed up in their expensive workout gear and their makeup all done and totally being stereotypical here, and then they'd go walk around Target.
Oh.
That's like a thing. You didn't know this?
No.
That's because your wife doesn't do it.
Things to be grateful for.
Anyway, I'm just kidding about being stereotypical there, but anyway.
I don't know. If you have good leg warmers, why not take them for a spin?
I don't think any of them were leg warmers, but I was
imagining like jazzercise people in the mall.
No, I think yoga pants and I don't even know. I've never owned anything from Lululemon.
Do they have hats?
Again, not sure.
Okay.
You know how I know what I know of Lululemon? I know it's a clothing brand. I know it's expensive, and I know that there is a really infamous case of a murder in a Lululemon store. That's what I know.
Oh.
Yeah, it's covered on Morbid.
Last pair of knickers, or what?
I don't. I'm not. Let's not go down that road. It's just going to take us on a tangent. You know how I am with tangents. Okay. After all, I'm kidding about the stereotype of who shops at Target, because we know from the victim statement that these assailants were all male. Guess what else Target sells?
Health and beauty supply.
fake fingers and ears.
No.
Yeah. For Halloween. Because remember, this happened right before Halloween.
What are people doing with them?
I don't know. Maybe they're buying pointy ears for Yoda costumes. I don't know.
Okay, the fingers?
Yeah, I got nothing.
Like, okay. I'm not saying I'm not intrigued. Like, I think it's a good idea. Just on...
Yeah, I don't know why they would sell fake fingers, to be honest.
Okay.
So police start reviewing the sales records for the local target, and it doesn't take long to hit pay dirt. So on October 22nd, 3 days before the attack and fire, someone had purchased 5 gallons of Splash windshield washer fluid, Playtex rubber gloves, 2 rolls of Manco plastic tape, and 1 box of Ruffles plastic garbage bags, along with a funnel, which struck me as funny, because I presume the funnel would be them trying to make it look like they're gonna pour this fluid actually into a vehicle. And since there were only 4 gallons found in the restaurant, maybe that was actually the case. Maybe they really did need windshield washer fluid, and the other gallon went in their car. I don't know. It's just the weird tangent my brains go. My brains, like there's more than one. The weird tangent my brain goes on.
I don't keep any flammable liquids in my containers marked windshield washer fluid, though.
Well, it said that the product itself was flammable. Which...
So, like, legit from the factory windshield wipers fluid was flammable?
That's what it said.
There's all kinds of stuff I don't know.
I looked... I thought about... It was really late when I was doing this. But I thought about looking it up because most people don't know. There's a difference between a flammable and a combustible liquid. Yeah. And my guess is that this is probably combustible, and it just said keep away from flame, and so they said it was flammable. But it's possible that it could be a flammable liquid, but flammable liquids would be like acetone is a flammable liquid.
Well, by that logic, I should be able to put any flammable liquid into my windshield washer reservoir, and
well, yeah.
If I happen to have a shower spark igniter hooked onto my hood, then no big deal, right?
I don't know how to respond to that.
You're the expert.
Okay. Let's move on to things that I can talk about. So investigators are able to talk to the clerk that rang the purchases up to see if the clerk remembers the purchase or might recall anything about the person that made the purchase. And to their surprise, the person that purchased these items was female, not male. So maybe my suspect profile isn't as far off as we think. Now, the case summary here does not tell me if they had surveillance video, but it's a target in 95, and so I suspect maybe they had video. But they are able to find, obviously, the sales receipt with all of these items on it. They're able to talk to the clerk, and they apparently used a photo lineup because at this point the police have a suspect in mind, and they present it to the clerk, and the clerk tentatively identifies the person that the police are already suspecting. So on November 2nd, police did 2 things. 1, they interviewed their suspect, and 2, they executed a search warrant on a storage unit that was used by the suspect. And I don't know which they did first because the case summary doesn't tell me. But when they looked in the storage unit, they found some interesting items like fake fingers and ears for Halloween decorations, and large brown envelopes that matched the envelopes that had been used to send the threatening mail to the restaurant.
It could be anybody. Everybody has fake fingers and ears laying around.
So they interview the suspect, and again, this may have happened before they got the search warrant, may have been after. And they reveal to the suspect that they have enough evidence to arrest her. And here's their evidence. The suspect had reportedly been choked by a rope when the assailants attacked her, but the medical personnel that had taken care of her after the attack found no bruising or chafing marks on her neck that would have been consistent with being strangled long enough to pass out.
Wait.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I'm not thinking what you're thinking. Probably I'm not smart like you. But that's the chick that got attacked? Those buying... Wait.
I worded this very carefully. The suspect had reportedly been choked by a rope.
Yeah.
Suspect.
Yeah. The chick who got attacked that you were talking about with a rope from the back door or whatever just happened, like, definitely from the rear. I heard that clearly.
How about if I read you the rest of it and we'll put it all together?
So that chick was sending fake fingers to people?
Item 2. The woman that had been attacked had been the one to purchase the tape, windshield washer fluid, gloves, and trash bags, and they had a witness to corroborate that she'd purchased these items the in the days before the attack. Number 3, they had evidence from her storage unit, or were maybe about to get that evidence if this interview happened before the warrant, I can't be sure. That included a word processor, which they implied had been like the one used to write the threatening messages sent through the mail, as well as those fingers and the envelopes. Number 4, the wound carved into the suspect's stomach was exceptionally shallow and appears to be superficial, as though she may have done it to herself. And number 5, the way the tape was positioned on her wrists and ankles made it most likely that she had put the tape on herself. In addition, she had made her bonds exceptionally loose, which is what allowed her to move enough to get out of the building.
Are you trying to say that those 3 dudes that attacked her back door were like doing it in self-defense?
No.
Oh.
No, I'm saying that this was a grand hoax. That the, quote, victim is the perpetrator. There was no men.
The dudes weren't real.
They're not there.
Oh.
That's right. Our suspect is none other than the sister-in-law that was the supposed victim of this horrific crime. And at this point, she fully confesses. She was charged with arson, endangering by fire or explosion, and a false report to a police officer. The sister-in-law was arrested and arraigned, but after psychological evaluation, a judge deemed her unfit to stand trial based on her mental status. Psychiatrists diagnosed her with depressive psychosis and deemed that she was too unwell to stand trial. So the judge dismissed the charges, but she was remanded to a mental hospital for a period of not less than 2 years. And I did follow up. I was able to find a little bit of follow-up. She was later released. Now, obviously, this community that's been rallying around this entire family and raising funds to help them is outraged to learn that the entire thing is a hoax, and their outrage is fully justified. The people in the community thought there was a potential attempted murderer targeting ethnic minorities. This probably incited fear. It may have even impacted how local businesses operated. Like, if I was a minority-owned business in that area, I probably would have added additional staff, maybe even hired security. They may have had impacts to their business as people were afraid to shop in that area under the potential increasing threat of violence. So this community is really angry, and I totally understand why they've been lied to.
So there was no racist hate crime at all?
No, she sent...
I'm getting rid of my soapbox.
She sent herself the threatening letters, and she staged the crime scene. Now, I chose not to release the family's name. The husband and wife owners were not implicated in the crime, and based on interviews with the husband after, he was shocked, horrified, and more than anything, sad. I mean, this was a business that it seemed like they had sunk their life savings into, and his own sister had destroyed it. And because his sister was, and again, I'm not sure if she was just an employee of the company or a part owner, but because she is the one that set the fire, the insurance company refused to pay the claim, and they went to court over it, and it appears that there was no restitution for the loss from the fire.
Okay, let's pretend I'm your listener, because I am right now. I missed something. Like, I don't understand why was she covering up? Why is she burning things down and pretending like invisible men were attacking her rear end?
She was orchestrating the whole thing to be a victim,
Why?
to be painted as a victim.
Why?
We don't know. She was mentally ill.
She just fucking did that randomly?
Yeah.
That's crazy and stupid together.
So it wasn't a shock to me that she was found unfit to stand trial based on her actions.
Yeah.
I chose not to release the family's name because I don't want this to impact... I don't want to dig up scars for the brother and sister-in-law, right?
No, my God.
Because they lost their family business. And then there's the issue of the victim/perpetrator. Now, she was deemed mentally unfit for trial, and while being remanded to a mental hospital isn't a walk in the park. I feel like she got off really easy for what she did, but I've never talked to her in my life, so I don't want to assume that whatever evidence was presented by psychiatrists wasn't compelling, because they dismissed all the charges against her. So I feel like that evidence had to be pretty solid that she was dealing with some serious mental issues, and I don't want to put her on blast, and I hope that she has gotten the help that she needs, and being released from the hospital, she is now doing better. Because I can't imagine the thought process that would be like, hey, I bet it's a good idea for me to burn down my brother and sister's business that I work at and pretend that I was being targeted.
Yeah, could somebody at least imply a motive to that? Like, just an implication would make my brain calm down a little bit.
There was no motive ever given.
Like, just because she wanted some attention would be something.
Maybe that's what it was. It said that she was depressed. She had depressive psychosis, which I've never heard of.
I've never heard of that. I was going to say something. I was like, that must be really depressed.
I guess. And like I said, the insurance company refused to pay on the policy because she was reportedly one of the owners and operators of the facility. And she has a son. So I don't want to... Obviously, he was a teenager at the time of the fires. He would be an adult now. But I don't want this to follow them around. So,
we're trying to bring awareness.
Yeah.
Not on people's lives.
Exactly. So we're telling the story. I hope that the victim/perpetrator is doing so much better now, having a great life, and I hope that her son, I'm sure that he had a hard life after his mom, went into the hospital for years.
You never know who's going to turn out to be what, right?
You never know.
You never know, because people discover things or whatever, and so I hear what you're saying. Man. So
I did find out some more information about the husband, the brother that owned the restaurant. Just last year, he was reportedly the victim of discrimination in the workplace, according to the article that I found. According to his lawyer, he had been treated differently than other peers in the same position as him. He had always received positive performance reviews until he filed some sort of labor complaint, and after that, all his reviews turned negative, and he applied for a promotion, and one of his own students that had far, far less experience than him was promoted over him. And of course, other similar kinds of accusations. Now, I wasn't able to locate a disposition for the case, but if those allegations are true, then this poor dude has had a lot of tough breaks in life. He lost his restaurant and his business. He lost his sister to several years of being committed to a mental hospital. His career is at risk due to potentially alleged racism at work. Again, I don't know the disposition of that case. So that's the other reason I really did not want to include his name. I wanted to respect his privacy.
I want to buy him a beer, not with him.
Yeah. And that's the case of the arson at the Kebab House restaurant in Fargo, North Dakota. It was a hate crime hoax, and it had to have been infuriating for other minority business owners because not only had they rallied around and tried to support this family, but I'm sure there was a fear that in the future, if there really was hate crimes in the area, that the police might have been inspired not to take them as seriously, knowing that this one was such a big and horrific hoax. But let's hope that's not the case. So before you go on your own criminal arson spree, a couple of pointers to remember and to try to bring a little levity to the end of this case before we leave everyone depressed.
And try to fill the gap in criminal management that there seems to be.
Right. We covered that in our last episode. You're right. Number 1, choking someone until they pass out with a rope is going to leave marks.
It better or didn't do it right.
Yeah. Number 2, your knife wounds need to be convincingly deep.
Like several inches. Don't skimp on the step.
Number 3, you don't want to be caught on camera buying all of the items used in your crime just days before the crime takes place.
Take a friend's face and put it on your face, and that will stall them for a while.
Number 4, if you're going to bind yourself with tape, remember that the position of the tape can give away whether or not the victim or an alleged perpetrator applied that tape.
Put the roll on your big toe and use that to apply the tape. Don't use your face.
If you're going to fake being restrained with tape, the ties have to be tight enough to be convincing.
It needs to hurt.
No matter how depressed, psychotic, or psychotically depressed you are, arson is never the best answer.
Unless you're in a controlled environment.
A controlled environment?
Mm-hmm.
Like what?
Like a burn lab.
Okay, but that's not arson. That's the purpose of a burn lab.
Well, then it wouldn't, that's what I'm saying, then it wouldn't be arson.
Okay. All right. If you're going to send harassing mail, your storage unit's not a good place to keep the evidence that might tie you to the crimes.
And also, there's no good place.
There's no good place.
And you shouldn't have the evidence in the first place because it's not cool.
And finally, and this one I just have to surmise, but burning down your family member's business that they invested their life savings into is probably going to make holiday dinners really awkward for the rest of your life.
We call that a dick move.
And finally, on a serious note, if you are suffering from depression, psychotic, or otherwise, help is available. You can actually just send a text. You don't even have to call. You can text 833-TLC-MAMA. That's 833-TLC-MAMA for the National Mental Health Hotline. Or you can call 800-662-4357 for the Mental Health Services Administration National Helpline. In addition, many states have statewide mental health crisis lines available, so please, if you need help, do not hesitate to reach out.
And when you call, it's going to seem super weird, but the people that are on the other end are actually really genuinely trying to help people, and it won't be as weird as you think. If you need to do it, go ahead and do it.
Go ahead and do it. So that's everything I have for this case. It wasn't a super long case, but I thought it was a really interesting case. And
I thought I was going to get to talk some crap on some racists.
Do you want a minute for your soapbox?
I don't need it.
Okay.
Everything's fine here. Carry on.
And that's it. And now we get to go watch Deadpool and Wolverine and
see what Disney has done to this thing.
The last time you and I went to the movies, like a date, was Deadpool 2. So
we always get out for the Deadpools.
We get out every 5 or 6 years the Deadpool movie comes out.
We always smuggle all our food in. Last time I took a whole pork tenderloin.
The ice cream sandwiches are a problem, though. They always melt before the previews are over.
Just keep them next to my cold heart.
That actually came from a Reader's Digest when I was a kid. I remember, there's like stories from real life, things they had.
Oh, I read me a bunch of Reader's Digest.
Yes, there's one that said this mom was getting ready to take her kids to the movies, and she told her son, she said, go put some snacks in my purse so you have something to eat so we don't have to buy the expensive movie theater snacks. And so they're sitting in the movie, and he leans over and he whispers, Mom, can I have my ice cream sandwich now? And there's melted ice cream sandwich all in the bottom of her purse.
Ugh. It probably tasted like lipstick and dentine.
Does everybody from the 80s and 90s know what the bottom of a purse tastes like?
Do you think the bottom of a purse changes flavor over the decades?
Well, yeah. The bottom of the purses that I ate candy out of had tobacco in them.
Oh, yeah. Some Virginia Slim in there. A peanut is capable of absorbing every flavor in a purse.
You know what? I've never eaten a purse peanut.
Maybe that's what's wrong with me, man. Had too many of them purse peanuts. Nothing good to eat ever came out of a purse.
My child is feral. Let's face it, she's way more likely to be an arsonist than a murderer.
But she's very unlikely to be caught.
And this will be Exhibit A in court. I'm extra enough. Dog's chasing the cat. Hey, Winston, leave the kitty alone. Come on, get out of there. Winston. You could just say you're just here to keep me from talking about turtle butts. You're like my ADHD shepherd, leading me back on track when I go off on a tangent.
Is that what I do?
I don't really know. Or leading me on new tangents.
We're in trouble. That's my job.
Backstreet Boys were a little after me. I don't know much about Backstreet Boys.
I'm older than you.
What was your genre? Menudo? I don't know.
Menudo?
Is that what they were called? What were they called?
I'm 2 years older than you. Not. What?
Is that what they were called, though? Did I get the name right?
You got it.
Okay, good.
Nailed it. Yeah, that's my favorite band, basically. Anything Latin influence.
The guy Dionne Warwick never saw coming. I didn't even mean for that to be. Fargo, North Dakota. Or is Fargo in South Dakota?
I was just about to explain how much of my ignorance I was going to display for everyone, and then you saved me.
Yeah, I was right. It was in North Dakota. I had a momentary... I knew it was in North Dakota, but I just... You ever know you know something, but then when you repeat it to somebody, you're suddenly like, wait, is that true?
Trying to figure out who I am. It's very existential.
Did you buy me another bottle? Oh my gosh. You're a hero. You're a hero, always providing me with my vice. 'Cause you...
Woohoo!
'Cause you gotta be strong. I'm gonna explain. You see, there was really bad writing in my document here.
And I'm not going to touch any of the innuendo that just happened.
Through the rear door and attack her from behind by putting a rope around her neck and strangling her until she loses consciousness.
Are you just f***ing daring me?
No. No. Will you shut up?
I'm assuming the innuendo's dawned on you by now.
It dawned on me the first time, but I need the dog to be quiet.
Damn. I just
Dun,
saw
dun, dun.
lasers come out of your eyeballs.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
I talk about potato chips in your stomach's like, yeah. You don't even eat potato chips.
No, I don't.
Anyway.
I'm tangent adjacent. You don't know how to pronounce the name of a country that we're talking about.
Iran?
That's the one.
Iran?
Right. You're doing that.
I keep saying Iran. What's this?
This is awesome. This is going to be epic.
Is it Iran?
Yeah.
Iran. Okay.